Every once in a while, something fantastic happens in the world of Magic, and today happens to be one of those days. Greetings, owners of fine luxury cardboard rectangles, and welcome to a video covering one of the upcoming Commander spoiler cards. So, because we're going to be talking all about this card, it makes sense to jump right in and show you the card we're specifically talking about today. And that is Tawnos, Urza's Apprentice. 1 blue and 1 red for a legendary human artificer. He has 1 power and 3 toughness, haste, and for a blue and a red and tap him, you can copy target activated or triggered ability you control from an artifact source. You may choose new targets for the copy. My master believes anything is achievable. Alright, so on the surface, to most of you, if you haven't been playing for a long time, you may say, okay, great. This is some legendary guy that they created for Commander. What's the big deal? Yeah, he's Urza's Apprentice. Who cares? Well, way back in the day, at the beginning of Magic, when they first started with stories, they had the Brothers' War. And the Brothers' War involved Urza and Mishra, and it was an epic kind of spanning, massive story that was really interesting to me. Now, Tawnos was Urza's apprentice, but he quickly went from just being an apprentice to like a master artificer rank. The story behind it is Urza was basically completely distracted, obsessed with his studies and his war with his brother, and nobody could really pull him away from that. But Tawnos, because he was a very clever artificer who did designs based on nature. Basically what he liked to do was take a look at examples from the real world and try and emulate them and take advantage of and enhance nature's designs. So he basically had like a little magical snake toy that he had created, and the design of it was intriguing enough to get Urza to pay a bit of attention to him and take him on as an apprentice. And so basically the cool thing is Tawnos actually had a really big impact on Urza in terms of some of the designs that he came up with later on would impact what Urza did. And the cards that there are multiple cards represented that I should say there are a bunch of cards in Magic that were created specifically by Tawnos. They'd even have his name in the card. There's 4 that have his name. The most famous that everybody knows about, or most people do if you know like old school powerful cards, is the Candelabra of Tawnos. This is a fun card. I played with it back in the day. It's silly times. I enjoy it. And actually, one cool thing about the Candelabra of Tawnos is that's actually referenced on Magus of the Candelabra as well, where they talk about how Urza is basically like a curse. And the mages are all like, oh, we hate Urza. But when it comes to Tawnos, they venerate him. They think that they're like, oh, Tawnos was fantastic. So there are mages out there that are like worshiping vine entwined candelabras and stuff because of Tawnos. It's kind of interesting that he had that kind of impact on essentially what is a religion almost later on. I mean, like a magical kind of religion / I don't know, those weird aesthetic monks that they had there in the Time Spiral thing. I'm not sure what the deal with those guys is. Anyway, so you have Candelabra of Tawnos, and then you have Tawnos' Coffin, which out of the 4, actually for me, when I started back in the day, out of these, because they're all from antiquities, out of the 4, I like Tawnos' Coffin the most. It's a really interesting one that exiles a creature from the game, but in its state, and it comes back in the same state that it is. So if it had enchantments and things like that, it comes back that way. It's not like normal exiling. And this was the only card that did something like that and was reusable. So I really enjoyed that. I mean, later on they would come up with like Safe Haven and other cards. But at the time, Tawnos' Coffin was the only thing you could get that way. Tawnos' weaponry, admittedly, is a very underwhelming card. I mean, the artwork is the card itself is very straightforward. I mean, this is basically the very first style of equipment that existed. Like where it's like, okay, tap it, it's on this guy, as long as it stays tapped, it's on that guy. Very simple, obviously simple to come up with, not too tricky in terms of artificing there. And then there's Tawnos' Wand, which makes small creatures undetectable, which is a pretty funky magic. Now, what I really enjoy is when you look at the actual card, Tawnos, his ability, the copy target activated or triggered ability you control from an artifact source, that works with every single one of the cards that are named after him. They are all artifacts with activated ability. You can get multiple effects out of all of them, and they're all beneficial. Candelabra of Tanos is going to get you more lands. Tanos' Coffin is going to let you take 2 creatures out instead. The Wand's going to let you make 2 creatures unblockable, and the Weaponry is going to give 2 boosts. So I definitely enjoy how well he actually ties into all, like, it shows that they took the time to actually look at the history of him. The Tanos' Coffin actually played into the storyline as well, because the war between Urza and Mishra ended with Urza activating the Silex, and the Silex blast leveled Argoth, killed so many people, and also ascended Urza. It ignited his spark, and he ascended into his Planeswalker status. Tanos actually survived that because he was saved inside of his own coffin. He was inside of the stasis inside the coffin. The coffin survived, and Urza was able to come and free him like 5 years later after the blast of the Silex. So Tanos was instrumental during the war as well. Basically, there was the 2 sides. You had Urza versus Mishra, right? And Urza was more, we're going to deal with constructs and more along the line. Actually, Tanos kind of led Urza down the line from just full-on constructs like the ornithopters and things like that into living creatures, because Tanos was trying to emulate life through artifice. And the other side, Mishra and the Phyrexians, were all about like a weird, disgusting, corruptive intersection and interweaving of magic and machine and man. So, like, on Urza's side, you'd have an ornithopter, but on Mishra's side, you'd have some kind of half bird man, half monster, like metal machine monstrosity. It was all, there was a stark contrast to it. Like, you have, you can see it in the apprentices as well of these two, because Tanos was Urza's apprentice, and Ashnod was Mishra's apprentice. And Ashnod had Ashnod's transmogran, and if you've seen that artifact, what it does is it turns a creature into an artifact. It makes it bigger and stronger, but it also turns that creature into an artifact. And that's that melding of like man and like artifice machine, like magical machine and man fused together, but in an unholy, almost zombie-esque kind of fashion. An abomination. A very Phyrexian style, right? Whereas Ashnod instead went the route where he tried to emulate animals and also created things like the clay statues. And the clay statues, while yes, when you look at them now, they are a very unimpressive magic card. 4 mana for a 3/1 that regenerates for 2 colors is not very powerful. But if you look at what it represents in the war, the Brothers' War, because they like there was all kinds of things that Urza was using. The clay statues were, the regeneration meant that they were reusable over and over and over, and those are what helped turn the tide of the war for him. And that's why Tanos actually got elevated to Master Artificer, and it happened really quickly for him. So he's a really cool character. And when you look at the card itself, aside from, admittedly, I don't like the way that they made Tanos look in the face, and I'm there's a little bit about the artwork that I don't like, but overall the artwork is actually really good. I enjoy the closed kind of laboratory kind of setup with all the different apparatuses laying out there. He's holding something up in his hand. Just the look. He looks proud and he looks competent. I don't particularly enjoy the way his face looks, but overall this feels not only like Tanos, but it's for a red-blue, like basically human artificer. It comes with haste, taps to copy an artifact ability. Even if you were to just call this Gary the blue-red artifact guy, it would totally feel like mechanically it all makes sense. But on top of that, he ties perfectly into the history, which I think is really, really cool. I'm honestly, when I look at stuff like this, I'm a little disappointed for what happened with Dominaria not getting multiple sets. Like they could have had more characters that we could have seen. Although, in all fairness, when they do the commander sets, they can do these like flash frozen in time moments as well. So there is that. It's not like they could put this Tanos specifically the way he is into Dominaria, because chronologically that wouldn't make any sense. But it does make me feel like, man, we didn't get as much as we could have for Dominaria. They did a really good job with this card, because literally the only thing that I can nitpick with it is minor artwork stuff, and that's a very personal and subjective kind of thing. So this card to me is an absolute home run. I love seeing design like this. Let me know what you guys think about that. And now we're going to move on to a subject that's kind of sad. It might bum you out, but let's move on over. I'm about to teleport. All right, my friends, the sad day is here. Some of you knew this was coming. For some of you, this is going to be a big shock. Try not to let it hit you too hard. But old Mr. Creakers here, his days are over. All right, this is it. This is the final episode. This is my final time of using him here. Unfortunately, this chair right here is causing me back problems now. I've let it, it's too old, it's damaged and slant. You can see the gangsta lean that I have in it. Now, I guess what that means is we're gonna have videos where you're not gonna hear all kinds of this. It'll be weird, we'll all have to adjust to just hearing my voice. The creak would kind of distract you, you know. Old Grandpa Perp in his rocking chair, just having a good old time. And I'm dragging it out right now because I don't want to let Mr. Creaks go. It doesn't feel right. Why does it have to be this way? And when you guys see the chair that Mr. Creaks is replaced by, you're not gonna be happy. We're not looking at, oh, check it out, I got the Brofist champion. I got the friggin', I got the sad old poor boy metal chair. Almost sit there and think about what I've done wrong in life and how I got here. So here we go, guys. It's time to retire Mr. Creaks. Let's go, buddy. Let's go. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. No, don't creak like that. No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry!
Together, we are the sixth color of magic.